Hello everyone, welcome to Timmy's Bookshelf and welcome to my end of November wrap up. So I have a bit of a cold again, super frustrating. Childcare right now is not very nice when it comes to colds and stuff. Something's going around. I'm hoping not to catch it too badly. Anyways, we're gonna hopefully survive with a throat. I have some water, so hopefully I can survive and film enough to talk to you about the books I finished off in the month of November. So let's get into it. I'm gonna go backwards because it's how it's organized and it's a lot easier. And I don't have any books pulled, so I'm just gonna show pictures. Sorry. Okay, so the first book, well, the last book that I read, I guess, in November was Pride and Pancakes. Hopefully this will be better. Okay, Pride and Pancakes, which is the first book in the Happily Ever Austen series by Ellen Mint. This one I did not enjoy. I think when you tie a book to Pride and Prejudice or to Jane Austen, you are putting yourself at a standard. Your standard is to be copying the story, and not exactly, but still like following that trend of love, enemies to lovers, but also having that extend over a period of time with character reveals. This was not that. This was a book about two people who were stuck in a cabin and the snow hit and they were trapped there and they discovered the other side of each other. That's not Pride and Prejudice. So I gave it 2 stars because in spite of the not well done storytelling, in my opinion, it wasn't a good idea. And the way it was played out was interesting because the musician, the man was a musician, and I can't remember his name right now, but he was a musician and she was a reporter. So that also played into it. But I just felt like a lot of it was, I don't know, like trying to throw Jane Austen or trying to fit something into Jane Austen. So Pride and Pancakes was not one I'd recommend for retelling. But if that's your kind of thing, like a lot close together, no way out kind of romance, then maybe that's for you. I don't know. It was just not for me and it was not what I expected. The next one is by an author that made me get Kindle Unlimited. So this one is by Hannah Jo Abbott, and this is the book called Walk With Me. Anyways, Walk With Me, and this one is book 1 in the Faith and Love series. This one is forgettable, to be honest. I do remember massive editing problems. And for me, I can't stand it when a book is not properly edited or when the phrasing or like punctuation is missing or inaccurate. It just feels like a fan fiction. And that's just my personal preference. I can't stand books that aren't properly edited. It's just a pet peeve of mine. And this one definitely had that problem. So I gave it 3 stars, and it was about, I remember now, it was about a young woman who's like 22 and she's a waitress, and she ends up meeting one of her new bosses at the country club, and he is very interested in her, but he is her boss. And so he manages to promote her to manager, which she deserves, but there is a building romance. The difference for me though was that one, he is a good deal older than her, and there was kind of a power imbalance. Even though, yes, she won it by her own merit, there is a power imbalance. So I didn't like that. I also did not like how it was just like, oh, we've been seeing each other for so long. It's been 2.5 months, 3 months. It's not that long. And that's just a normal take for me. If you've been watching my channel for a while and watching me read romances, you know a really fast pace, like I'm in love with you and gonna propose now, is a problematic thing. So I don't like those. So anyways, I have met couples who that has worked for, but it's just not the norm. And I don't like that in books, as it's not the norm. All right, the next one was the first book in a series, which was called To Dwell Among the Cedars by Connilyn and Cossette. This is a duology that takes place during the book of 2 Samuel, I want to say, in the Bible. It's a biblical fiction, and it's about the moving of the ark to the, like, it's outside of Israel. I can't remember exactly what chapter reference that would be. I can find it and put on the screen for you here. I find this series to be really interesting. I love biblical fiction I enjoy it all, but I love biblical fiction that looks at stories that aren't well told. Like everyone knows the story of David and Goliath. But this is a kind of story about how the ark was rested at a certain mountaintop, and how it was protected, and how different things. And it's not like 100% accurate because obviously it's biblical fiction, but at the same time I really enjoyed it. I have book 2 as an arc, which I never read in time, but it is one of my priorities to read before the end of the year, so hopefully I can get to it in the month of December. The next one, I finished it. Berna and Nikki, I finished it. I read it with Berna and Nikki. They read it ahead of me. I still have not given my thoughts to them, but I will before I post this video. So I finished The Leopard. This is by Jo Nesbo, and this is book 8 in the Harry Hole series, and I'm giving it a 3-star. I was really disappointed in this one. I felt like, I kind of feel like in general, Harry Hole is getting formulaic. And even though there's a certain point where you're like, okay, they've caught the murderer, but there's 100 pages left, it's just formulaic at this point. And honestly, I'm so tired of all the women throwing themselves at Harry's feet. Honestly, he's a washed up old drunk who's not described as handsome in any way, shape, or form, and every woman is throwing themselves at his feet. This is ridiculous. I am over it. I am so done with that. Yeah, that's just a personal pet peeve. It's like so predictable. I think the next one might be a little different because of the synopsis, but I don't want to go into too much in case that spoils previous books. We are going to finish up the series in the next year, in 2023. It's a plan of ours. But yeah, 3 stars. It's very formulaic now to me, and I am just so tired of Harry going down the same path over and over and over again, and there's no character growth. There's no development, in my opinion. So I'm just kind of done. But I'm not done enough to be fit down the series. So I will keep reading them with Berna and Nikki, even though this book was a disappointment. It was also like, I would say 200 pages too long. So something needed to be figured out plot-wise to cut out those pages, honestly. So this next book is a surprise to me. I asked for recommendations from a couple friends, and one of them recommended The Holy Man by Susan Trott. This one is weird to describe. I can't describe it without making it sound boring, I think, because it was just so thoughtful. The premise of The Holy Man is where every summer there is a group of, or not just one group of people, but like thousands of people line up to meet the Holy Man. And they line up in this country. I don't think it ever stated what country, but they line up and then they go and camp during the night and they get back in line and they wait for their turn to see the Holy Man. Now, they don't know what happens because you walk through the door and you walk out another door and you go down, and that's all it is. But this book is really about philosophy. It's about the people who are on that journey to meet the Holy Man, why some of them are there. It's a very short book. It's like 195 pages, and the pages were like that small. It is small. But yeah, it's a 5-star. It was just like, it's philosophy. It's kind of like a fiction philosophy, I would say. And I feel like I'm just struggling to explain it because it's just so difficult to explain without sounding pretentious, maybe. Yeah, it's just about the lessons people learn in the line and how they treat each other and things they get from the Holy Man. And it was just a really incredible, strange book that I'm definitely reading the next 2 books in the series of. So yeah, I would really recommend this. It was just so heartwarming, and it made you think and appreciate life. And it wasn't preachy at all. It was just really interesting. I think it's a good one that most people will never have heard of, at least, and maybe not even try because it just sounds so strange, but you should totally try it and check it out if you can. I finished a series, which is the Hanger's Horseman series. So this one is by Karen Witemeyer. So the next one I read was In Honor's Defense. This one was an arc that I needed to finish off eventually. This one I read for Historathon, and along with my next one. I think that's right. I read like 3 in a day. Anyways, this is one of my Historathon books. So yeah, it was really interesting. This one follows the final horseman, who is Luke, and he is trying to find some cow wrestlers, and he stumbles across this young woman who's like 20 something and her nephew, who she is now the guardian of, and basically they're land is being approached for sale and something's fishy about it all. So it's just really cool. I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. It is really interesting how each of these books has approached some part of family in a different kind of way. And I've also really enjoyed seeing how the horsemen, like Hanger's horsemen, those 4 men, keep together all the way through. This was a great finale to the series, and I really recommend reading this one if you haven't yet read the whole series. I also read a collection of novellas, which are historical, like country cowboy novellas. So this is the Lone Star Romance Collection, which are the 3 by Cathy Marie Hake and then 2 by Kimberly Comeaux. This one I'm giving 4 star. I really love the ones by Cathy Marie Hake. I think those ones are great. I mean, the third one is not as amazing as the first 2, but those are really fun. And they follow 3 brothers and each brother's romance as they have moved from Ireland to Texas. Then the other 2 were okay. I've read them before, but I couldn't really remember those 2. And honestly, those 2 were just kind of mediocre. Maybe like they were good, but not great. So I'm giving the whole collection a 4 out of 5. Another book for Historathon was Zimrah, Dream Singer by Susan Valles. This one is about a woman who is a slave. She's kind of more like a teenager girl. It's funny how in biblical fiction, all the women are like 16, 17. Anyways, side note, but this one is about Zimrah, who is a slave, and she is the daughter, oh, not the daughter, but she's the kind of like the adoptive daughter, essentially, and how she's been treated of her master. And the problem is that nobody accepts her, and they all think that she's his illegitimate child. She's also fighting very real demons, and by that I don't mean figuratively, I mean quite literally. And that was kind of where I struggled with this book. It was a 3 star for me, and it takes place, I would say, right around the time of Jesus being born or shortly thereafter, maybe 20 years. Actually, because of certain characters, but it's kind of vague at the beginning. I think this book is a lot more about the spiritual battle of it all, and the warrior that angels can be and are, but also I enjoyed a lot of it, but I think the storytelling way was also not for me. It's also in first person, and I don't tend to like first person books. So that's another thing. But I would recommend it. It was just had a few ticks that were not for me, but I would definitely say that it was more of a me problem than the book problem, as it's very well rated and most people really enjoy it. So I would recommend it. It's also the start of a series if you're all interested. I also read The Thief of Corinth and Daughter of Rome by Tessa Afshar. These are the first 2 books in the kind of loose series that is based on one character named Theo. It's not a series officially, but I know, as I've read them all before, that Theo first appears in Thief of Corinth and then Daughter of Rome and then Jewel of the Nile. So I still want to read Jewel of the Nile this year. But I think it was great to reread. 5 stars all around. Thief of Corinth goes into a family who lives in Corinth when Paul visits them. And then Daughter of Rome is about Priscilla and Aquila, who were mentioned as a married couple in some of the epistles, and they are clearly married, but it is about them growing together and then also them as a married couple, which I think is a little different than a lot of romances. So love those books, thoroughly enjoyed them, and I cannot wait to read Jewel of the Nile. So the next one is a series that made me get Connilyn. This is the book series, and they're all by Hannah Jo Abbott, and this is the series Whispering Oaks Ranch. So I read Hope for the Cowboy, Match for the Cowboy, which actually is book 3, and Courage for the Cowboy, which is book 2. So I read them all, really enjoyed the first one, gave it 5 stars. 5 stars. I thought it was really interesting. The series is based on a ranch where they are, the father is kind of done with doing the financial side of it. And so he hires a young lady to come and take over, and his eldest son is not impressed that they are hiring outsiders for the family business. But of course, there's a romance. I really enjoyed how this played out. And then I instantly went and bought book 2, which was Courage for the Cowboy, I believe. Yep, Courage for the Cowboy. And that one I thoroughly enjoyed as well. That one was about how they start bringing in a horse trainer to make a bit more money on the side. And one of the brothers, who's getting interested in the horse trainer lady, finds out that he is going to become the guardian of his sister's kids who he's never met before. And so I really enjoyed the fostering, well, not fostering, but adoption aspect of that. Instant family, but also how that was all played out. And then I was like, I need more. So that's when I got Kindle Unlimited for 3 months for 99 cents. Cause I was like, I need this if I'm gonna read more. So then I read Match for the Cowboy, which is about a woman who is escaping an abusive family situation. And it's not physically abusive, but it does talk about the mental abuse in some ways and the emotional abuse. So I do think that that is a trigger warning you need to know for book 3. But it was really interesting to me how it all plays out. I gave it a 4-star, so I really enjoyed those ones. Book 4 is coming out in January or February, so I'm definitely gonna be picking it up, because even though I didn't love her other book series, I feel like that was a book series that she wrote earlier on, and this series is one I'm loving. Another Kindle Unlimited book I got, since I had Kindle Unlimited, I was like, let me read all these series I have been like wanting to read, but I don't own a book of. So, A Heart Reclaimed, this is by Elizabeth Maddrey. This one is the second book in the Peacock Hill romance series. This one I'm giving a 3-star. It was an interesting interesting romance about, so the series takes place about a hotel, or a formerly like really big house, and it is being transformed to like a conference center / hotel, kind of for like weddings and banquets and stuff like that. But it was interesting in the way that it was like, okay, so the woman's brother from the previous book, he was in there. I read a lot of books, so I don't remember a lot of names. Anyways, he was in there, and he is trying to help design the garden, and they bring along this lady to help, not knowing that she and this guy were classmates at school, and that things were interesting. They both liked each other, but they fought a lot. So it's just, I didn't mind that bit. I did mind that it seemed like every turn that we went, someone was referring to age. And it was like, oh, you're so old. Like, you're 32. How old? You're just so old. Why? Like, or it was like, oh, we didn't understand how you could be good friends with someone who's like 25. And I'm like, because he was 32. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. Your age does not define you. So I was very frustrated with that. I also did not love the instant relationship status, essentially. But I am giving it a 3 because it was otherwise well done. I just really was bugged about the age. Maybe it's me being 30 now or something, but I was not impressed. 3 books left. We're almost there. All right, the next one was an arc, which is The Final Year of Anne Boleyn by Natalie Grueninger. I think that's how you say it. This is a book, as it states, about the last year of Anne Boleyn's life, following her life, following the people around her's lives. It was a really interesting one. I gave it 4 stars. I think it had interesting outlooks on other people. And even from the stuff that was in there, I want to look into more Mary the First biographies and stuff, because I think that would be really interesting based on what I read in that one. So yeah, it's just what it says it is. And I think it was a well done biography about the final year of Anne Boleyn's life and how that all played out. I read another arc, which is called The Real Life Murder Club, Citizens Solving True Crime by Nicola Stow. This one is what it says it is as well. It's about the people who sleuth online trying to solve murder mysteries, who are not police officers, who are not in any way in the law department or in the correctional justice department, whatever. They are not being paid for it. They work a normal job, they go home, and they can do like 6 to 8 hours on their computer searching out people. And it was really interesting to learn about different things that people have created, like Name Us, which is about IDing Jane Does and John Does, but also different ways that people kind of figured out cases, and some, like one person who used his artistic ability to create skulls, or use a skull and then create a face from it, so that way it could be more accurate for trying to identify missing people. So it was just really interesting. I gave it 4 stars as well. I think it's well worth the read if you're interested in true crime. And I think it also kind of, it doesn't say that it's more important than police work, because it never is, but they do talk about how they're correlated and how they are really crucial to finding them when the police officers just don't have enough hours in their day. And this is an extra step that people can take. The last thing that I read was Jessi's Secret Language. This is a graphic novel from the Babysitters Club series, which is called, or the author is by Anne M. Martin and Chau. This one, or Chau, I believe actually. This one is about Jessi as she starts to babysit a boy who is deaf. And I thought that it was really great to see that representation in the series. I am up to date in that series now that I've read that one. And I was really excited to get to it, not only because of my last book in that series, but because I really love reading those books. I loved Babysitters Club as a kid. Loved it. And it's really great to read these stories after the fact, after I've grown up. Yeah, it was just really great to see deaf representation and how people are accepting of deaf representation, and how the Babysitters Club worked to make that more accessible to other children and to make it more approachable, that they could work together and help this boy feel welcome, along with his older sister who was feeling kind of left out. So yeah, really enjoyed that one, and I gave it, 5 stars. I thought I gave it 5, but I wasn't positive. So that is it. I don't know how many individual books I've read in the course of the month of November. I know my story graph says 54, and that is because of the Bible books that I read. I read tons of Bible books. I think I read like 22. I still read a fair amount for the month of November. I think I read over 31, or 30, which is the amount of days in the month. So I'm not upset about that at all. I also hit 9,000 pages. I really tried for that 9,000 page mark because I squeezed in Pride and Pancakes. But yeah, that's all I have read. I'll link my first half of the month down below if you want to check that out. But I was definitely taking it slow the first few days of December, not reading too much, which is okay, because you know what? Sometimes you just gotta chill after reading a bunch. Thank you so much for watching. Please like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you are new here. You can also hit that notification bell so you'll know every time I post a video. Makes it easier for you. You can also leave a comment down below. I'd love that if you could tell me what books you were reading in November, how you did, whether it's Historathon, Nonfiction November, whatever. I read a ton for both, and it was a really good time. I'm really glad with all of my reading in November, and I am thankful that I was able to get out a few series in the middle of it. So like I said, thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.